we remind ourselves how blessed we are when we sing that song. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. So today we're going to go to number 3 in a series of 4. You know, if I've said this before, I think it's worth saying again. If Science of Mind has a tradition, it would be this one, and that is the first month of the year, we deal with the first 4 chapters in the book, The Science of Mind. And today we're in chapter 3, which is what it does. It meaning the spirit, the divine, God, the wholeness of the one God. So today, what it does. The study of life and the nature of the laws of thought is part of the definition of the science of mind. The study of life and the nature of the laws of thought. The conception that we live in a spiritual universe and that God is in us, around us, and for us, and there is nothing against us. That is tremendous. When we say that to ourselves with any belief, you can begin the road of self-mastery. So what it does, next week, we're going to do how to use it. So don't miss next week. That's important. Let us understand that this is a principle that is universal. It is, first of all, a universal creative essence. What it does is, that is the creative universal essence we are talking about. And I want to have an additional reading today in what Mary Jo so wisely chose to read for us today. This one I want to read says, we are surrounded by an infinite possibility. It is goodness, life, law, and reason. In expressing itself through us, it becomes more fully conscious of its own being. Therefore, it wishes to express through us. As it passes into our being, it automatically becomes the law of our lives. It can pass into expression through us only as we consciously allow it to do so. Keep remembering that line. It can pass into expression through us only as we consciously allow it to do so. Therefore, we should have faith in it and its desires and its ability to do so for us, all that we shall ever need to have done. Since it must pass through our consciousness to operate for us, we must be conscious that it is doing so. End of quote. Tremendous. The potential knowledge of all things exists in this one mind. The potential knowledge. That means unlimited knowledge. The potential knowledge of all things exists in this one mind, the universal subjective mind. We're talking about universal subjectivity and how we individualize it and cause it to be, for us, individual subjective activity. But let's go on with it with more exploration of what this wonderful concept and principle is. There's nothing unknown to this omniscient mind, nothing unknown. The abstract essence of beauty, truth, and wisdom exists in this mind, and it provides and offers us all a knowing through the channel of our own minds. Think about that. You are connected to this through the mind, through the one mind, and once you open up the window for the flow to enter through you, you can then benefit from all the wisdom of God. That's what it does. It compensates through the law of compensation. There is a law of compensation, just like a law of circulation, just like a law of balance. All of those are spiritual, mental laws. That's what it does. Emerson talks about the law of polarity. Action and reaction meet in every part of nature, the law of polarity. In expressing itself through us, it becomes more fully conscious of its own being. In part 2, we saw that the power becomes the law of our lives. We're talking about the same power now. It is the law of our life. The law of manifestation shows that every excess causes a defect, and every defect causes an excess. I'll give you an example. Has anyone here ever experienced what an electrical surge is? We're fortunate to have the president of our organization right now, of Connecticut Center for Spiritual Living, is a licensed electrician. I'm not trying to get business for him, but he understands the principle of electrical surges. Anyone here, if you ever had a surge, you know that you need to have a surge protector. Every excess causes a defect. Every defect causes an excess. So have any of you ever experienced a concern? You ever had a concern, something that worried you, or ever worry about something or an event that led to something, some good outcome? Cause and effect shows up in our lives. Equilibrium is set in motion. Everything has to be balanced in nature. The law of compensation kicks into action when we trigger an action. And if there's an excess, it causes something to go out of balance. That's what it does. Right action is taking place. It is a divine, self-correcting, immutable force that is always present, seeking to pave the way for right action for all of us. Each of us, one at a time. Some of you may have had something like this that happened a few years ago to me, and it is happening every day. But this is an example of the balance that I'm talking about. I lived in LA years ago. My brother lived in Atlanta. He's passed now, but that's not what I meant. I lived in LA, my brother lived in Atlanta, which makes visiting him kind of pricey. You have to get on a plane, then you have to get in a car when the plane drops you off to find his home. So I had a reservation to go see my brother. And while I was waiting in line at the airport, the flight was oversold. And they gave me the bad news. Your flight is oversold. You cannot get on the flight. And I had to start thinking, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So what happened is that was an imbalance. A perfect example here. An imbalance took place and I was set off in a dizzy, unsure kind of situation. I could not travel when I had planned it to. All the planning that I made now seemed to be ready to fall apart. But the law of compensation kicked in. This is what it does. The law of compensation kicked in, and I got a free offer from the airport, a free round trip anywhere in the country, which I graciously accepted. And I'm sure that if you were in the situation, you'd really understand what I'm talking about. I got a free round trip anywhere in the country, which I graciously accepted. So now I could go visit my brother in Atlanta and save the cost of the ticket. I have to rearrange my plans. So I adjusted to whatever imbalance that had taken place that I could not predict. And all of us are in that same situation where we cannot predict an imbalance that is about to take place about plans that we have made or decisions that we have made. And when that happens, if you have faith and trust that things are going to work out for you, instead of being worried and getting upset and maybe using foul language, some of us do that. Trust something better is happening that we have not thought about. I never thought about having a round trip anywhere in the country that I wish to go, and it would have been free. So there's a law of mind that follows the pattern of our thoughts. The pattern of the thoughts set in motion by the law that we're talking about, what it does, brings something else into balance based on our mental approach, our mental attitude, our mental concerns and worries. There's a law of mind that follows the pattern of our thoughts. Dr. Holmes says, this practice is not mental coercion. It is not mental suggestion. It is mental awareness. It has to be mental awareness because when we are aware, we make choices that are beneficial. When we are not aware, we end up spinning out into a spiral that we don't want. So the spiritual awareness of mind is what helps us to use the law of mind in a beneficial way, not only for ourselves, but for everyone else concerned. The mind to see the result already accomplished, to believe that it is already done. If we approach life that way, the good that you seek is seeking you. What you have decided to have in your life that is good for you and the rest of the world is already taking place in the ultimate, in the invisible realm, about to be revealed through you and the plans that you have made. Sometimes you didn't make the plan, but because you had an objective, the law caused it to take place. That's what it does. It gives us all we can take, as much or as little as we can receive. All is given to us. Some of us fight back. Some of us use language that we regret. Some of us make decisions that we regret. We get upset and have a fit and causes the law to get out again, not the law getting out of balance, but our life gets out of balance and the law has to compensate now. Remember, every excess causes a problem. It diffuses its nature throughout all people, places, and things. It impersonally responds to all people alike, regardless of what you believe in the terms of church or spiritual or whatever belief you have. This law works the same way with everybody. You don't have to belong to any particular cult or anything else that you want to call it for this to work, because this is the natural law of our being. It impersonally responds to all alike, regardless of appearance or social status. That's what it does. It makes things out of itself by becoming the thing that it makes, because it is pure balance. That's what it does. Dr. Holmes says this: the intelligence by and through which we perceive that there is a spiritual presence and an infinite mind in the universe constitutes our receptivity to it and decides its flow through us. That's a massive quote. Dr. Holmes said, we have made a riddle out of simplicity. It's a very basic thing. It's very simple, but we have made a riddle out of it. We've complicated our understanding of the basic, easy principle of the law of right action taking place. The more we struggle with a simple truth by thinking too much into it, we make a riddle out of it. The more conscious we are of it, the more use we can make of it. It behooves us to become more conscious of it and its operation. That's why we take so much time every year to repeat these basic principles, because it really helps you to put your life in order. And when I say put your life in order, I'm not talking about being crucified or being put into suffering. I'm talking about being free, being hopeful, being joyous, being able to predict by a forethought, and allow the law of the principle works things out for you. When we think something is happening all the time, when we think something kicks into action all the time, it's always taking place. The field through which thought operates is infinite. So you can't think of anything that the law doesn't already know how to use it. It has prior knowledge of everything. There is no reason to doubt it, no matter how it is approached. To thought, there can be no limit. So we will say that it is the nature of being to react this way. Here and now, we are surrounded by and immersed in an infinite good. Can you accept that? You are surrounded by an infinite good. And I'm talking about infinite in the infinite sense with a big I and good with a big G. How much of this infinite good is yours? How much is ours? You know what? All of it. All of it. God doesn't shortchange anybody, because God does not take preference. God does not judge like human people judge. God is equally accessible to every single person. And the law of compensation is available to every single person in the same amount. In the same amount. How much of the infinite good is ours? All of it. And how much of it may we have to use? As much as we can embody. That's on page 50 of the Science of Mind. Thought operates through the field of consciousness. The field of consciousness is not on the basic ground level that we're talking about. It is a higher level of dimension, that when we think, it's in the invisible realm, but it manifests in the visible, tangible, experiential, tactile level of our experience. Thought operates through the field of consciousness. Remember this line I'm going to give you. Thought operates through the field of consciousness. Let us know and trust there is a law of mind that follows the pattern of our thought. If you remember nothing else for this morning, remember there is a law of mind that follows the pattern of our thought. The pattern of your thought is more important than the thought itself. Contemplate that and see how you have lived your life. Now I'll repeat a quote and then I will be through. As it passes, quote, as it passes into our being, it automatically becomes the law of our lives. It can pass into expression through us only as we consciously allow it to do so. Therefore, we should have faith in it and its desires and its ability to do for us all that we shall ever need to have done, since it must pass through our consciousness to operate for us. We must be conscious of that it is doing so. End of quote. Closing thought. The love of God is always present. Let us always remember this universal truth. That's what it does. That's how we enjoy the ride of life in this beautiful thing called life. Take time to muse. Take time to reflect. Take time to be silent. Take time to be in awe. Take time to contemplate. Take time to meditate. Take time to be alone. Take time to be quiet. Take time to hear the silence, and take time to know yourself. Namaste. This is it for today. And so it is. Yes, it is the most important part of using the law effectively, the law of mind, which is what we talked about. It's a mental law. So if our mind, which is the mental part of our being, if our mind continues to have a trend, if our thinking has a certain trend, that becomes a pattern. Now, the pattern could be going to a very high level of thought, to be more refined, to be more beneficial, whereas the opposite is true. And remember with me that God is present right where I am, right where you are. God, if you're in a room in your house, God is filling up that room right now with its presence. It was always there, but because you recognize it there, it becomes more real to you. Remember that God is present. That presence is the presence of infinite wisdom. That presence is the presence of infinite intelligence. That presence is the presence of unconditional love. That presence is a presence of crystal clarity. And that presence is the presence of the original life. God is pure life, the first life. And out of God came all the other lives, everything else. We are all made in the image and likeness of God. Because God is like all of us at the same time in the same amount. That realization, when you can say that life is my life now. Now, not tomorrow, not next week, not when I am better. God is present, God is life, that life is my life right now. So I can now declare out of that realization that everyone listening to the sound of my voice, everyone included in the impulse of my good thoughts, right here and right now, are blessed with clarity, with wisdom, to allow their lives, to direct their lives in a beneficial direction, one that is loving. Primarily, there is love. There is abundance. Lack has gone away, and now they are filled with supply of good. All the good they seek is attracted to them right now. I declare this through the power of the spoken word. I know that when I speak my words, they cannot return to me void. And so I am grateful, so thankful, so full of gratitude that this pattern of prayer, that the power of these words are meaningful. They have power. They cause the creation to take place. I am so thankful for the opportunity to share this wonderful presence, this wonderful prayer, this wonderful philosophy with people who are seeking to write their lives up. I'm so grateful for this. I give thanks. I release these words now to that power, that same power that knows how to do it. This is what it does. This is the immutable power of life that changes things according to my thoughts and my words and my prayer. I release it. I know all is well. And so it is. I invite you to say after me, and so it is. Amen. Amen. One thing about the financial support is a two-way street. When we offer support, we are supported. When we offer a hand, the hand is reached back out to us. So every time we share our abundance, our flow opens, because the law of compensation always takes place. When we give, we receive. We're not giving in order to receive, but when we give, we receive. That's the law of compensation. And you can't change the law. You can only use it.